Hello YouTube, this is Octallium and today we are going to talk about this article. Now this article is written by Peter and he actually wants to measure the memory usage of creating 1 million concurrent tasks. Now when I was checking the numbers for Elixir, we can see that Elixir has a huge spike. So I decided to investigate this on my own, and in this video I will actually show you how you can create your own benchmarks for this memory usage. But first let us try to understand what's happening wrong with this example. Now the first thing that we can see over here is the author is actually running into an issue. Shortly in the video we will see that this is not an hard limit, so I will explain as we progress in this video. Now let's try to scroll a little bit up and let's see what's happening with this article. Now the first thing that I wanted to show you is to create the baseline for the hardware. Here we can see that the author is using an Intel machine with 6 cores and he is using Elixir 1.12. Now let's see the specifications of my machine. So let me open up my terminal, and since I'm using a Mac, I can simply say System Profiler, and here we have the specifications for my machine. As we can see, I'm using a MacBook and my MacBook is coming with 8 cores along with 16 GB of memory. So it's quite obvious that my hardware and the hardware of the author is quite different, but still we can have a much better insight with the memory usage in Elixir. Now let's scroll all the way to the top and let me try to explain what's happening with this article. The title says that the author wants to see the memory usage for running 1 million concurrent tasks. And later on, he's actually referring this task as threads. Now what happens in the world of Elixir is threads and tasks are two totally different things. Threads are equivalent to processes and Elixir actually has a task. Now this task is like an abstraction which is built on the top of processes. So now we know that what the author is saying and what the author is trying to measure, at least when it comes to Elixir, is totally different thing. Let's try to scroll a little bit down, and this line right over here, this sounds pretty strange to me. You can definitely use ChatGPT or Copilot for your code, but you should not use these AI tools to generate code for you. You should use these AI tools to help you improve your code or to help you to fill up small knowledge gaps or small skill gaps that you might have. But asking ChatGPT to write your own code sounds pretty dumb to me. Next, let us go to the code of Golang. So if I scroll a little bit down, so here we can see that the author is actually trying to use Go routines. Now again, Go routines are like your virtual threads, which are equivalent to processes inside Elixir. Again, we can see the same thing is happening with Java as well. Now let's try to scroll all the way down to Elixir. And here we can see that instead of processes, the author is using task. So till now, I hope you must have understood what's going wrong. Next, let us see how we can come up with our own benchmarks. So let me scroll all the way to the bottom. Next, let me go back to my terminal. Let me clear all of these things and let me start my IEX. The first thing that we want to see is how many processes can we create. So for this, let us use the inbuilt function which comes from Erlang. So you can say that from Erlang, we simply want to use the function of system info, and let's pass the atom of process limits. And here we can see that we do have a limit of 262,000 processes. Now this limit is in place just to help you so that you don't crash your own server. So before we run our benchmarks, we have to make sure that we have a much bigger limit, and I will show you how to do that shortly in this video. But before this, let us have a look at one more function where we can see the actual memory usage inside Elixir, or rather the Erlang virtual machine. For this, again, let us go back to Erlang and let us simply use the function of memory. So as you can see that we can see the memory used by our entire system. Now what we are particularly interested is right over here, that is for processes used. Now these values are actually in bytes. Now let us do one thing. Let us simply take the value of processes used. So let me just copy this one and let's invoke the same function, but let me pass an atom for processes used. Now this number actually indicates the memory used by all of the processes, and remember that this number stands for the number of bytes. Next, let us see how we can actually increase the process limit to 1 million processes. But for doing this, we actually need to run a command line flag. So let me come out of my IEX. Let me clear my screen, and this time I want to again say I want to go inside IEX, but this time I want to pass a command line flag for ERL. And here, as you can see, that I'm actually passing a flag for P. Now this P stands for processes, and I actually want to create 1,010,000 processes. I just wanted to have a small buffer, that's why I've added 1,010,000. Now let's go inside IEX. Next, let us actually check the process limit, so we can use the same function. So this time we do get a number which is more than 1 million. That's because we need extra processes just to handle the runtime, and in any case we can spawn more than 1 million processes. Next, let us collect the memory usage from our processes. So let's use the same function and let's pass the argument of processes used. Now let us collect the value inside a variable and let us call this variable as initial. Next, we simply want to spin up 1 million concurrent processes. Now spinning up a process in Elixir is very easy. So let us use the for comprehensions. So we can say for I in 1 all the way to 1 million. So 1 million has 6 zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And for each iteration, we simply want to spawn a new process. Now this actually accepts an anonymous function. Next, we want this process to be blocked. We don't want this process to be simply created and destroyed. So let us use a receive block right over here. So we can say receive, do, and end. So now we can create 1 million concurrent Elixir processes. So let us go ahead. And we can see that we actually have 1 million concurrently running processes, and that too Elixir was able to spin up so many processes in just a fraction of seconds. Next, let us check the memory usage. So let me just copy this one from here and let me paste it right over here. Also, let us collect this one in one more variable. So we can say later. Beautiful. Now we have all of the readings. We have the later one and we also have the initial one. So we can simply say that I want to subtract initial from the later one. Oh, I think I simply misspelled this one. Let me get the spelling right. Now we actually have a number, and this number is for bytes. Next, let us try to convert these bytes to megabytes. Let me just clear up the screen and let us have this figure back on the screen. Now the conversion of 1 byte to a megabyte goes something like this. So 1 byte is actually 1 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 6 megabytes. So this byte gets converted from a byte to a kilobyte and then a kilobyte to a megabyte. So let's do this one. So let's use this figure right over here, and we simply want to divide this one with 1, and we need 6 zeros, right? So let us use 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we have a pretty nice output, and the total memory used by 1 million concurrent processes is 2697 megabytes. So this is equivalent to 2.6 gigabytes of memory. Now let us go back to the article. Just remember this figure of 2697. Now in this article, if you go back to Elixir, it's showing around 4 gigabytes of memory. But since my machine and the machine used by author is different, so that's why we are going to see different numbers. But nevertheless, we can see that the memory used by processes is quite less. And I think it's safe to assume that Elixir would be at par with Go as well. With this, let us try to conclude this video. So the number one takeaway is, don't use ChatGPT to create your own code, use your own brains. And the second point is, try to come up with your own benchmarks. Don't rely on any of these benchmarks that you can find online. And third one, let me take this opportunity to promote my course. So my course is right over here. Mastering Concurrency and OTP in Elixir. Now in this course, you will understand what exactly is a process, what exactly is a task, and along with processes and tasks, you would be learning quite a lot about concurrency primitives in Elixir. Well, that's it from me, and I'll catch you right in the next one. Bye.